Going to be discussing our last winner from the CTA contest. Of course, things could possibly change, but we were able to go through all of the top three. We really touched on a lot of the different things that they did really well, why we thought they might have won, and a bunch of different things. So today we're going to be looking at the second place winner, and I really want to hear what your insights were on this winner in particular. I have my reasons why I feel like it's an interesting discussion, but I want to hear from you guys. Hopefully y'all were able to research it or read it at least beforehand. And so let's not wait, let's just dive in. Let me pull it up online. And let me turn this down too. So there's a lot of reasons why I find this series to be super interesting, and a number of reasons boil down to the fact that I knew the creator and I knew this series before I ever started reading or before they entered the CTA contest. And so I was actually reading the Flag Bearer series, the one that was on Canvas, before the CTA, and now that it's an original. So that's also super cool to talk about. This is one of the few series from that contest that immediately became an original. So if you want to check out their series, the original that's going on right now, I have everything linked in the description down below. So let me open this by saying, I think one of the biggest reasons why this series did so well, and possibly why the judges really enjoyed and liked the series, is because of the art. I feel this is a great example of how the visuals, the aesthetic, the look, the style, the drawings, all of it really emphasize how amazing the art is. And they really emphasize to me what a lot of Webtoon readers are looking for, especially those in this genre of action. I think everybody kind of enjoys pretty visuals on Webtoons, but I think it's especially important to understand how your genre's visuals affect the way you tell the story. So let me just give you some examples. So this is the opening panel, and I kind of counted these as 3 panels, but if you just look at the visuals of these, everything is so high quality, so immersive, and immediately you're dragged into the story. You can see so many small details, and not including the words. I'm just talking about the illustration in of itself. You see something going on in the background here. There's so much visual storytelling just from these first few opening panels, but also the panels are extremely polished. They're extremely worked over really well. They're not just flats. There might be a little bit of filter, there might be a little bit of gradient, there might be different effects, all of that on these panels that lead immediately into our main character. So practically you open the story and you're shown who we're going to be following. You're shown exactly what he looks like. You're shown his, presence, his personality, all of that. And all of that's encapsulated in the first 3 panels. It just sets up this very epic high fantasy sort of story. But so I count this as panel 3. Somebody else could count this as panel 1. I don't necessarily know if counting it like this is right or wrong, but it reads to me that that's 3 panels. So if we transition here, I would count this as another artistic or visually interesting panel. And you see in between the first few panels, there's those 3 panels, there's this in-between panel, then we get our next visual stunning panel. And so you can see every few panels, the artist is setting up you're gonna get something very visually intriguing. Hi, Millie. And so if we scroll down a little further, even some of the background panels to me are visually intriguing, but if we scroll a little further, this I would count as panel 10. So we have this, and it leads into this, another visually interesting, visually stunning type of panel that just really makes you feel intrigue, makes you feel what's going on here, all in the same frame of it's really cool, it's really stunning. And so if we keep going, this is panel 12, really setting up the tone of the character and what they look like. And I feel this is another visually stunning panel. Scroll down a little further. This is panel 14, setting up the tone even better of the characters, really showing like his menace, but like the panel in of itself, like look at this like character that has been like frozen from the inside out. It's so cool to be able to see, you know, this, and all of this is being conveyed just through the visuals. So like practically this series is made up of what I like to call money shots. Like they're just shots where like you could take a screenshot and it could be a screensaver for the person, and they're just things that go a little further than just like a background panel or like a throwaway panel. There's just so much involved in these panels that go beyond just conveying the information correctly. Oh, you know, said, I read this. It gives me Fate Zero hype. Also, the blue-haired guy has the same design like Lancer from Fate. Pure hype with great action, but dialogue added that authenticity, which makes everything perfect. And I agree. Like, this reads to me like a shonen or like something that is very action-packed, which we'll get into in a little bit. But I just want to show you guys just from the visuals that I feel the visuals alone, like we could practically delete all of the text in this story, and I think you could kind of pretty much pick up on what's going on exactly. Like that's how like powerful these visuals are. And so that's why I think it's really important. Like a lot of people focus on like telling the stories correctly or telling the dialogue or exposition correctly, but you also have to remember that this is a visual form of storytelling where people, oh, I'm getting an update where we're getting where people are reading into the pictures as well as reading the dialogue. So there's more information being conveyed than just good writing. Good writing is amazing, but good art is amazing as well. So you definitely want to keep in mind that both of these things can work together and really balance themselves. And so, like, this is just what I'm saying. Every few panels, he's giving us like these really stunning, dynamic, like visuals. There's tons of text over all of these really pretty pictures. But look at this. We just got this earlier illustration that was really cool, and maybe 2 panels later we get another really stunning illustration. So to me it just conveys how well this artist understood that the visual, like what their strong suit was. To them, their strong suit is drawing, it's, you know, dynamic panels, it's cool characters, it's setting up the right tone. Like look at this. Like I would even consider this to be another really cool illustration. I don't necessarily consider it a money shot per se, but I would say it's something that would make the reader stop and pay attention to like, oh, something is going down. And like just this is the last panel that I wanted to show you guys, and this is like the midway point, maybe 33 or 40%, but look at how this panel flows. Like we get this shot of the eyes, it flows down into this eye and her perception of what she sees, which flows out into this long panel. And it just shows you like the detail and the understanding of how this artist set up their visuals. Like we went from her viewpoint to an outside viewpoint, all trailing back to the same eye. Like it's connected so well. And like every panel just like flows into the next panel. It's just a really amazing feat in my opinion. Fish said, if yours is action/fantasy, etc., you'll definitely need the more detailed visuals. I think you can get away with less detailed visuals sometimes, depending on like how you're setting up the story. Like if you're setting it up like this, then yeah, like you're gonna have to go hard. Like if you're setting it up with like some sort of action or some sort of like epic fight scene, then it involves a lot of like choreography and a lot of understanding. I think the more I think about the categories and like most feels, most epic, that sort of thing, it really makes me think like, yes, they understand that the genres are all different and all of them can have drama, all of them can have like certain bits of intrigue, but it's really important to make sure, like, if you're telling an epic story, is it actually epic? If you're telling a story that focuses on feelings, are you making me feel anything? And the same for gripping. Am I on the edge of my seat? Like, and I think those concepts are really, really important to understand, because if we think about the past winners that we've discussed, each one of their stories is so different to me. Like, I'm blanking on the name of the Magical Girl series, but that series, it was a Magical Girl series for the CTA. The other series was very like Dungeons and Dragons, and then this series is very shonen to me. All of them are different and attract different audiences, but they all fit the theme of the contest really, really well. So I just think it's so important to consider all of that information when you're crafting your entry and making sure that your entry fits the category that you're entering, not just telling a good story. Because I personally feel that those categories are going to be the downfall of a few people because they entered the wrong category. Not that webtoons may not pick you up, but it just might be the difference in you winning the contest or losing the contest if that's your goal. So getting back into the story, so after discussing the visuals, when we look at this, I want to say here at panel 5, we really get to understand exactly what the story is going to be about, and even the creator emphasizes this by highlighting the word duel. So we see that this is going to be a fight. It's going to be a fight between two of the characters. And so it makes me also consider like how the creator for this series told the information. And a lot of times I feel like information falls into a few categories. And in this situation, since this is an epic, since this is like a fighting series with powers and magic systems and all of that stuff, a lot of it is exposition. And it's funny because I think people often think of exposition as something that should be very limited or should not be told in the story. And I want people to kind of consider something a little different. Every story needs exposition, but you need to be able to tell it in a way where people do not realize that it's exposition, because exposition can come in the form of dialogue, it can be inner monologue, it can be narration exposition, but it's really important to understand how to utilize each form of exposition and how to convey it correctly without making it seem very heavy-handed to the reader, because this is information that the reader needs to know. OMW said hot take, but I feel like this has too much exposition as dialogue. Though I get the point was to get readers excited right off the bat. The art is gorgeous though. And I would say if I was judging this series, OMW, I do think it's heavy-handed in the exposition, but I also think that you wouldn't be able to tell some of the minute details without the exposition. Like, if they didn't tell me what was going on, then I wouldn't necessarily fully understand what's happening. Like, I do think that I could get that they're fighting. I wouldn't know what they were fighting about. I wouldn't know that it was over this like trivial matter of the fact that she wants to feel something, feel excitement, like her life had gotten dull. But that's the way the character was set up. I don't think the character is relatable because it's like, who would fight this monster? But in this genre in particular, I feel like people eat that type of stuff up. People are very interested in like these epic OP fights. They're interested in these, you know, larger than life characters, like just doing their thing or whatever and explaining how their powers work. Like, people really enjoy that stuff. I think like Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen, I'm trying to think of the other one that's out, My Hero Academia, they all have these scenes where they like explain heavily exactly what they're doing, how their power works, why they're doing it, how they feel, all of that stuff. And could it be left out? Absolutely. But would you, for a fact, know this is how the character feels? And so for this genre in particular, I feel that it works. So this is where I'm like, you have to understand your genre too. Genre exposition is different for every type of series. Like, A romance series may not go into the technical explanation of how a character does a task because it focuses on the feelings. But for an action series, it might get a little technical because people really enjoy that aspect of the power system or magic system or all of that other stuff that people enjoy. So this character actually conveys a lot of exposition, the female character, through dialogue. So this whole time she's talking out loud. She's saying like how she wishes to feel something, and that's where we get like this really cool illustration of the heart. And she just goes on to explain that like she wants to fight him because she wants to feel alive. And she's not really worried about it. What I do like that the creator does is for certain scenes, they emphasize certain words. Like here, he highlighted death and he highlighted it again. And so it just conveys information better to the readers to help them to understand what's going on in the scene, like what they need to focus on, that this isn't just a fight. This is a fight to the death. Like she never mentioned that she wanted to die. And then he's like, well, if death's what you want, then death's what you'll get. And so it just makes it really interesting to me how the creator chose to emphasize certain things or emphasize certain words just to kind of give the scenes more power and more emphasis. Like we see here, they highlighted flag bearer just to indicate, like to me, this indicates a different term to the reader, something that they need to be aware of going forward and that it's impactful to the overall story. So depending on your story, if you have terms in there that the readers might not understand or might be unfamiliar, or you're using it in a different context but is important to the story, you could consider highlighting the word for the reader. And I don't think I've ever read that in another series where a creator did something like that. But I found it to be pretty useful and pretty interesting to see when they did choose to use the highlighted words. So I want to build a little bit on what I was talking about earlier in terms of leaning into your type of story. So if you know you're telling a superhero story, or you're telling maybe something like Lord of the Rings, or something that involves a magic system, understanding what those type of readers expect from the explanation of your world is really important. So we think about stories that have, like, let's do hard versus soft magic systems. We think about stories that have that in them. Well, I feel like hard magic systems often, like maybe Hunter x Hunter or something like that, where the rules are very important. It's really interesting to see that that type of story is often more technical. It involves more within the world. Whereas a soft magic system, like, I don't know, is Harry Potter a soft magic system? Like my mind blanked on soft magic systems. But a soft magic system really involves more focusing on the feelings of the characters and how they use the powers to obtain whatever task they're doing. It's more than just the fight. And so that's why I think it's really important to understand, like, if you're crafting something, especially in the epic or thriller category that uses any sort of external forces, then it's really important to understand what the readers expect from that type of story. And I will say, I do think that explaining things is important to every story. Like, it doesn't matter if you convey visuals really well for certain scenes. For important scenes, I need the dialogue. I need you to tell me like what you're feeling. I need the character to tell me what they're doing. And it just emphasizes to me a lot more and reinforces what I might already think is happening. And it's a little bit of a nugget to me from the reader. Like the reader perspective is like, I'm piecing things together to kind of make it to a certain point. Sean said Harry Potter's magic system is half-baked. Like, I don't even know what to think about that magic system. Like, when I was thinking about it, I was like, they do have like certain rules for things, but then I was like, sometimes they don't though. And then I was like, maybe it's just Harry that kind of does whatever he wants and the other people have rules, but that's getting on a whole different tyrant. Anyway, using explanation for readers is important, and it benefits them in the right scene. A lot of times readers don't need a lot of explanation in the beginning, but they do need that explanation later on to confirm things. Like, just hearing the character's inner monologue is really important, and I feel that's missing a lot of times from certain webtoons. Like, I'm not understanding the character's perspective fully because I'm not getting that inner monologue from them. And you can think about, there's tons of shows that use inner monologue to explain a scene. They go further than just saying, implying things. They actually tell me for a fact, this is what happened to this character. This character had a rough life. Like, this character feels this way. I think about Fruits Baskets, and like every episode was pretty much Toru telling us how she felt, telling us how she felt about life, telling us how she felt about the boys, telling us how she felt about her friendships. Like, it was constant telling, but it was emotionally powerful. And that's where I think, like, people need to understand that explaining has its place in a story. You don't want to leave it out, but you don't want to do it in a way where I feel like I'm being told. You want to do it in a way where it feels like the character is sharing something with me. And that's what this creator did in their series. Now, they didn't necessarily do it for emotional reaction. They did it for clarity. They did it so that we, as the reader, could understand what was going on. And so this is where I think, really focusing on meaningful panels. And so that comes from a number of things. And I just want to highlight a couple of them. I was talking about clarity, but clarity in your written as well as clarity in your visuals is super important, especially at the beginning of the series, because you never want readers to walk away confused in a bad way. Confused in a good way is one thing, but confused in a bad way is something that I feel like just turns people off. Like, if I get to the end of your episode, I have no clue what it's about. I have no clue who the main character is. I have no clue about the world, then I'm probably going to check out. Like, it's not a series for me. Having a feeling of being lost or being confused isn't a good feeling in general. So just imagine if somebody sat down to read your story and just did not agree with anything. Yeah, I agree with drugs. That's a very accurate statement. Oh, you know what? You're right, Sean. Lord of the Rings is a classic soft magic system. I could not think of that, but that is a great example. So getting back to how to create meaningful panels, I think making sure your choreography is done really well. So we saw that earlier when I was showing you guys the example of the so like here he is attacking this character. Here she is opening her eyes because she's had her eyes closed for the whole time. Then we get this like very dynamic panel where we're seeing like everything happening as he's attacking her, her visual viewpoint. All of that is the choreography of those panels combined together to be able to tell this story in this way. And we see it throughout the rest of the fight. Like, there's a lot of attacking back and forth, like this character disappearing and moving from this. Like, there's a lot of movement in between panels. There's a lot of rotating the camera constantly, which could be confusing, but it also adds to, like, seeing the fight. Like, the fight is moving so quickly, so fast. It just adds a lot of tension to all of the scenes and excitement, in my opinion. I would also say consider the panel flow, like very specifically. Like, he's showing like him moving, like he's where is it? He's being attacked here. He's moving to kind of like stop himself, and then he like presses there to like have this ice shoot up to shield him. So that's really important to understand, like specifically, like if I'm showing something in a panel, it's for a reason, and I want people to be able to understand what sort of emotions I'm trying to craft throughout each panel. I would also say the speed is really important. Now, this is something that I fully don't understand completely. I'm just going to be 100% transparent about that. But a lot of people talk about the gutter space in between panels and how that creates time, how that creates speed and motion. It's never something that I've really paid attention to as a reader. And even as I've like crafted my own series and crafted my own Webtoon episode, like I followed the rules, but I feel like it's something you understand more on a technical level the more you work in Webtoons, work on your own Webtoon. But the gutter space, everything that I've researched says like that can indicate time. And there have been instances where I've seen the gutter space used effectively, like in Everything Is Fine. Sometimes scrolling for a long time gives me an unsettled feeling for what's going to happen in the next panel, but I've never thought of it in terms of time. But that's something I think everybody should research, understand the gutter space in between each panel creates a feeling of time and creates a different experience for the reader. Like having the panels like right next to each other makes something important. I'm sorry, I got distracted. Having the panels right next to each other I can see how it can convey a different meaning, but I think it's something that you'll have to play around and research and understand the more you craft. Kalmia, hello. Oh, guys. So Kalmia has a YouTube channel, and I want to say, go check it out. Give her all the support that she can. She just did a video on like Webtoon character designs, if I'm remembering correctly. It was a super fun video. It had a lot of like great points, and you get to see what she's crafting for her future Webtoon contest. It's super cool. I really enjoyed watching it. It was a lot of fun. Anyway, Kalmia said the gutter space isn't something you're necessarily consciously notice, but it's definitely determines pacing. Yes. And that's what all my research said. Like it all indicated to me a lot of like how the reader's side of things, how they move through the story. And so it's something really, really important to consider. OMW said the longer the gutter, the longer time has passed between each panel. On the Webtoons page, they suggest a minimum of 200 pixels for normal sized gutters. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. All of my research says like it affects it. So I'm just saying, do your own research on it and understand it. I do think that it's something to consider for sure, and it helps with crafting the Webtoon. So I could not mention it when I'm talking about, making more meaningful panels. The next thing I wanted to talk about was in your panels, we have, as like a Webtoon creator, as someone who's crafting different visuals, I feel like it puts you in a unique position to be able to emphasize things like symbolism so much more to really help the reader understand the weight of the series, to understand how impactful, an illustration or the meaning of something could be. And so when you have something like, I use a common one that you see in anime all the time, the cage bird. Like that's something where they'll like show two birds, or they'll show a bird in a cage and then they'll show a bird escaping a cage or something like that. And it just really indicates like the message of someone being free, someone finally escaping from whatever trapped or dark situation they're in. And so in this series, the creator actually uses a metaphor, an illustration of a iceberg, and how you don't actually see how big it is because underneath the water it could be humongous. And it's really a reference to how powerful our main blue-haired character is. And so it's something that I don't think people should be heavy-handed on, but I think if you're trying to convey something and emphasize the weight of it, it's something to consider and something that could have a profound effect on a reader. And I bring up the caged bird all the time because I remember the first time I saw it, it just really made the meaning of the episode that I was watching, I can't even remember what the series was, but it just made the scene so much more impactful and powerful to me. So I think it's, if you have a situation where you can do something like this to emphasize the meaning, it'll just help. And then making sure that the tone of your panels are emphasized well. Like if we look here, I just get an eerie feeling from this scene. Like it conveys danger, it conveys like stress, it conveys like what happens next, what's going on. So much is being conveyed to the reader just from the look of this panel, and I think that's something really important to understand. So, okay, you guys, this is where I kind of roast myself because I thought this series did really good. I thought it conveyed everything really well, but I'm going to be honest with all of you. It actually contradicts a lot of the advice that I've given on the first place winner and on the second place winner. And let me explain what I mean by that. This Webtoons was in second place. Like, it got that slot. It won. It was, the next best place is number 1. And it beat out all these other series. It does not end to me on a strong cliffhanger. Like, it ends to me like the series kind of wraps itself up. Like, this story is completed. They had their fight. They've set them up as enemies. But it doesn't really necessarily convey, like, specifically what is going to happen next, because clearly she's not strong enough to fight him again. She ran away at the end of the episode. The dude who was fighting her isn't necessarily interested in fighting her, and to me it seemed like he was the main character. So it kind of sets up like a 2-person POV type story. So when we think about this, it does everything right. It conveys all the information really well, but it still doesn't end on that cliffhanger where it's like, I need to know what happens next. It ends to me on a satisfying note where it's like, that was the end of the fight. The fight was cool. Now we're entering into the next episode, going to see how the journey develops from here. So you can win and not have a strong cliffhanger at the end of the episode. I still wouldn't suggest it. I feel like the first place and third place winners set up a nice cliffhanger to know what happens next specifically. But this one I feel like doesn't, and it works for it. Another thing is, in the beginning of the episode, it doesn't set up a lot of intrigue. Like, I don't have a lot of questions going forward. It just sets up that these two characters are going to fight, and then they have the fight. It doesn't set up anything like larger than life, like larger beyond the scale of the world, and that's completely fine. It's a contained story, and I've been encouraging people that you may want to do a story that's more streamlined in terms of a normal webtoon with 1 to 3 episodes. Now this is a little different because this was a 1 episode entry or whatever, so they decided to go with this route for their story. I'm just saying this is a good example of how just telling a good story works overall. So do whatever you think is best. If you feel like telling 3 condensed episodes into maybe a short story and then building on that for your episode 4 and episode 5, like it's like a prologue sort of situation, then do that. This is a perfect example where I feel like it defies all of the rules and it still came out on top. Like, it goes against all of the advice that I've read, all of the information from editors and from other webtoon creators, and it just decided, hey, I'm going to tell a contained story and move on. Yeah, the story in of itself literally just focuses on a fight, and I think that is its strong suit for the webtoon contest that it entered. Webtoon said, we want to fight, and that's what they gave them. So did it nail that? Yes, it did. So that's why I'm just kind of like, hey, I'm not a judge, and this is where that subjectivity comes into play, that every story is different and every person responds to a story differently. Then I also want to touch on the fact that there's not much character development between the two characters. There's a lot of like fun one-liners. There's a lot of visual intrigue. Like, the characters are very cool looking, but it really doesn't develop them as people. Like, we don't really find out much about them other than the fact that, she feels like she's alive now. She's found her purpose in life, I guess, to fight that dude again. And that dude is just like, I'm still super cool and chill, and I'm doing my thing. So we're still kind of in the same point of almost where we started with them in the beginning. But it still worked. Like, it's still a very fun story. It's very interesting, and it does a lot of cool things throughout the episode. Now, my last thing to call myself out on, there were no abs. I got a comment recently and someone was like, why are you always telling us that like episodes need to have like abs in it? And I'm like, because they sell. This episode from this creator who won second place, there were no abs shown. Like, we did not see any like hot boy summer vibes. We did not see like dude just got out of the gym or whatever, like dude taking off his shirt for no reason. Like, we did not see any of that. It just conveyed exactly what it needed to tell the story well. So almost all of everything that I've said, this story contradicted. But that's the fun of telling a story. Putting your own unique spin on something, going against what everybody says, doing what you feel is right, having the confidence to believe in yourself is so important as a creative, as someone who makes stories. So I think it is an awesome chance for you to be able to, you know, if you feel that your story is just hands down good and goes against everything, then you 100% should enter it the way you want to. Don't let anybody, don't let me, don't let, you know, whatever research you come up with. I mean, to a relative degree, I feel like you should take advice from people here and there. But if you feel that your vision is perfect, then enter it. We all could be shocked and be like, what the heck? None of us were right. So I say just do it. Have some confidence in yourself. So the moral of this story is Apollo was wrong. Oh, Kiki, hi, I called alive. I found your channel because I was researching stuff about the contest. I like your previous contest winner videos and hearing your perspective. Good luck, everyone participating. Yeah, thank you for joining. I'm super excited to see what everybody enters. Sean said, CTA was fight cinematic. This contest seems like a full-on series pitch. It does seem like a pitch. So I just bring that up because I feel like there are ways that someone could get around, like they could tell a complete story in just 3 episodes, like a prologue or like a backstory flashback sort of situation. And then episode 4 could be where their story actually starts. So like episodes 1 through 3 sets the premise, sets the emotion for episode 4. And so someone could do that and win. So that's why I'm just saying, like, just because like I don't think that's the right way to go, you could think it is. And so this is a perfect example of all the advice I've given was, I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm just saying that this one did everything against what I said. So it's just important to understand that you as a creator, you have your own voice and you can do what you want to try and win. Now, the one thing I will say about this is if we look at the creator, they actually entered this series. It's more of a prequel. Like, it's not following the characters from that story. It's following these 2 characters, which is completely different from the CTA characters that we saw enter. And what I actually really like about that is it just shows you to an extent that Webtoons is gonna, I think, be flexible with you if you make it to the point where you're pitching your series. Like, you could tell them, this is just, I really wanted to create something to really showcase the power of my storytelling, of my ability or whatever I'm trying to do. But this is the actual story that I want to make an original. This is the story I want to work on. Is this something you're interested in? And in this creator's case, they agreed. They were like, yes, this is the better story, or this is an equally as good story, and we're down for you to create this story. So that's what ended up happening with this. And I just want to look at this real quick, just to show you all. Like, this series started November 2023. So it started pretty quickly after the CTA contest ended. And I think it was just because this creator had so much already done for the story. Like, they were already ready to kind of work on this story. Whereas maybe a few of the other creators weren't in the situation where they could actually make a story as quickly as this creator did. So let me switch back over to the PowerPoint. Oh wow, I didn't even do the disclaimer like I normally do. Dang, that's crazy. OMW said, oh, you're just talking to Kiki. Sean said, if they were abs, they would have gotten the W. You know what? I feel like if abs were involved, they most definitely would have gotten a W. OMW said, if Lancel looked more like Gilgamesh, it would have gotten a W. Listen, y'all, it got a W. It got second place. Hey, if I got second place in a contest and I got like 50K or something, I'd be like, that's a W. 100%. DAH said, having the sole purpose of life to fight isn't even real development. I mean, you're not wrong. I'm just saying, like, the character did end up in a different state, I guess, at the end of the episode. Ken said, hopes this gets seen. What you hope what gets seen? Does the location matter when creating a comic? Can I get contracted while in Africa if the story and art is good enough? I think so. I think from, if I'm remembering correctly from the rules, as long as your country doesn't forbid it, you should be paid accordingly, I think. I don't know how that would work. Like, I'd be interested to know if somebody was publishing on the American side of things and lived in a different country, if they were converting their money or if they were paying them US premium. Princess Vlogs, my first time in this stream. I've been binging your videos. I finally made it. I'm so glad you could make it. Yeah, I went ahead and pre-scheduled out some videos so that everybody could have a chance to see them. And actually jump on instead of me just starting lives randomly. So I'm just saying, I'm going to keep trying to do that so you guys know when I'm making a video. OMW said, I believe they have a list of countries that are not eligible for the contest in the official rules. You should check that out just in case. Yes, they do have some countries listed. I just don't remember. But definitely check out the rules. The official rules are going to be your saving grace. I made a video on it, but I did not read the actual contract, like the contract for the rules. So, and I mean, I didn't read it with you guys live. So I think it's really important for everybody to check out the fine print of the contract and not just the summary, not just the Q&A, to see before you put in all of this work with hopes of getting a contract that you don't disqualify yourself by not being eligible for one of the rules. All right, so what, and I'd love to hear what you guys who ever read or who had looked up the story beforehand, what your thoughts were on it. Like, what did you like? What did you dislike? I'd be really interested to hear what you guys thought. So looking at this story overall, I think a lot of things it did were really cool, really showed how, you know, to understand your genre and understand the type of story that you're telling. The art really carries the story. To me, it did not matter if the writing was better. The art, the visuals just stuck out so much that it was overpowering. There were so many good panels, and if you go through and look at this series, you'll see, like, from the first panel all the way to the end, you're going to get a plethora of money shots. By panel 5, again, we're seeing very quickly, like in all of these series, it gets down to the point no later than panel 10. In this series, panel 5, it immediately set up what the story was about. We get a lot of exposition, and they mix up the exposition between narration, through dialogue, through inner monologue. Oh, and here's something I want people to remember. Monologues work. Like, all of the people who, like, rag on, like, people giving, like, you know, waxing poetically through a 5-minute scene, just talking about, like, their evil plan or whatever, those work. Like, I know that it's funny, like, when you analyze it and whatnot, but for readers, they work. Like, inner monologues work. Live, them talking out loud monologues work. So soliloquies work. All of those things actually work in stories. It's all about how you do it, though. There was some cool features in the onomatopoeia, highlighting the words and understanding that, you know, where you're placing things and emphasizing things in your onomatopoeia and your speech bubbles is important and really helps with the overall flow of the story. Remember to lean into your type of story. Is it a superhero? Is it a romance? Is it a lovers, enemies to lovers? Like whatever type of story it is, all of those stories have things that readers expect from them. So do your research and understand like what the story requires from you to be able to develop the story. Explaining things is really powerful. It can really be the thing that pushes the story forward to make the readers connect more deeply with the character. Like, just understanding that a character is weak is great. Like, I'm glad you conveyed that they could not pick up the dumbbell. But hearing a character talk about their weakness can be so impactful. Hearing a character explain why they're doing something from their point of view can be very impactful. Try to create meaningful panels. You can do this through your choreography, the positioning of the panels, the positioning of the illustrations. Make sure that everything reads well. Clarity is king. The panel flow and the panel speed are important, and you can think of things like your symbolism, the tone, like the look, the style, and then the gutter space are all things that are going to really affect how powerful and meaningful a panel can be. Oh my good grief, why is this continuing to update? Like every time I'm on a roll, like I'm getting these updates. And then just some notes that not everything is 100% black or white. Sometimes a non-strong cliffhanger can work. Sometimes a strong one can work. Sometimes you don't have to have a huge setup of intrigue from the beginning. In certain stories, characters don't always need a lot of character development because they're just gonna fight, and the development is in the fight, I guess. And then, unfortunately, abs just aren't always going to be the thing that sell a comic. Nah, for real, I don't care about abs that much. Like it's just funny to me that on Webtoons, like if you got abs in your comic, then automatic W. All right, so my question to the community, what do you think will make an entry more impactful for the judges? Like, what really stands out to you? What do you think the judges are really looking for in each category? How do you think the judges are taking the information? Are they just following a set amount of rules? Are they using their own opinion? Like explain to me exactly what you think will help other creators to make their series the best that it can possibly be. So we'll do a quick Q&A, and I just want to hear, what you guys think and your opinions on how, I guess on anything, like how's your story going? How's your entry going? Where are you at? All right, so I'm getting, let's see. Oh, OMW, thank you so much. I'm glad the lives are getting you hyped. I can't wait to read your entry. Yes, are you? Go ahead and find your lawyer. Like, everybody should be lawyered up. Like, look for a lawyer in your area. And I agree. The story does feel more like a manga, and it does appeal to a manga type of audience. But I do think there are manga readers on Webtoon that would respond really well to a manga type story. All right, Panelin, enjoy your drawing. DAH. Hey, oh, I got you, DAH. Angel, finally. Yes, thank you for joining. I don't think I've ever seen you here before, so I'm really excited to get a chance to chat with you for a few minutes. Princess Vogue said, my webtoon is a comedy drama, but very focused on romance, but I believe it would not make sense to be a romance because of how many punchlines and jokes I add in a episode. Would romance be better? No, honestly, I think that you're going to get a lot less competition in comedy. And if you feel that your story is funny, like legit, like laugh out loud funny, then I would go for comedy. Like, that would just be me. I think comedy is going to be the least competitive. I think it'll still be competitive, but I think, like, if you have something that's actually funny, and I think if it is a romantic comedy, like, I don't know, Friends, or what else is funny? I don't know. Like, if it's something like that, then Webtoons would eat that up. Like, they'd be like, oh, it hits both our demographics. It hits the romance girlies and it hits the comedy people. Sean said, I don't know if anyone has ever caught someone in a devious trap, but the urge to explain is real. Yes, 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 yes. The urge to explain is real. Like, if I catch you doing anything, I want a monologue about it. If I am the one who set it up, like, I want you to know it was me. I want you to know that I'm the reason for your downfall and that it only took me 10 steps to do it. But here are the 10 steps. Dragon, I'm entering the Webtoon contest and the silent manga contest. I'm going for the win in both. Your videos are keeping me from getting burnt out. Thank you for helping everyone. Good luck. Yeah, no problem. I'm glad that you're here. I did want to ask you guys, we've been covering the CTAs, but I think I definitely want to cover a series from romance, gripping, and from comedy, just to see how those stories are structured. I've actually been reading Blake Snyder's Save the Cat, and it's really been opening my eyes on a lot of things. Like, I read it a while ago, but rereading it right now during this contest, I think it's just widening my perspective on a lot of things. And I really feel like, to help everybody, I need to look at the other genres and really explain, like, what to expect from those genres. And I will say this, like, the CTAs are a really good way for us to understand, like, from the judges' point of view, what they might be looking for. But I think from a personal perspective and understanding what the genre is, we need to do some deep dives on those. So I'm planning to do some video. That's what I'm planning to do next week, is videos on genre. OMW said, I'm struggling to write, so I'll just shove abs every 3 panels, see if it clicks. Hey, I mean, you gotta give some spice, but you've also gotta lead me to the spice. Like, you've got to be the type of creator where it's like, you dangle it in front of me and I keep swiping for it and you pull it back. Like, that's the way you've got to be about the spice. Panelin said, I'm not excited to learn how to draw abs. Dude, you can do it. It's so easy. Do we need to do an abs tutorial class? Like, I'm so down to do that. Samurai, what is up? I have a finished script and I'm about halfway through storyboarding my episode 1, but it's already past 40 panels, so I don't know if that's a problem. I don't think it's a problem. I think that that's something important that you should always... Like, your story should always be told in the best way possible. And if it's more than 40 panels, then if that's the best way of telling the story, then leave it as is. But if you feel like you can trim some fat, then do that. But just make sure that the story is told the best it can possibly be told. I'll be counting panels in once we see who the contest winners are. And I think that'll answer that question for a lot of people. Harper, why do I need a lawyer? Okay, so this is a long conversation to have, but the short of it is Webtoons, based off of their rules, only gives you if you get selected to move to the next round and pitch and get money and all of that stuff. Once you get the contract, you only have 14 days to sign it, which means you need to give it to a lawyer. Well, if you're trying to find a good lawyer, then, figuring out, like, what they've done, what they've worked on, who they've helped, all of that stuff takes time. Setting up meetings with them takes time. Being able to get on their schedule takes time. Like, lawyers aren't just sitting around waiting for you to come around. Like, the lawyer that you want might be booked for 2 weeks out. Like, you might not be able to get a meeting with him. And even if you do get a meeting with him, he might not be able to handle your issue immediately right then. So a lot of that, like, turnaround time, getting a meeting with him, all of that takes up time. And like your 14 days could be here and gone. And I wonder if it's 14 business days, because if it's just 2 weeks, like that's insane. But at least with 14 business days, that's like 3 weeks. But my point in all of this is it's not a lot of time for you to be able to review the contract to the best of your ability without having a lawyer you can reach out to immediately. You want to set up yourself for success, and Webtoon's contract is going to favor them. So if you don't give any pushback on anything, then likely you've put yourself in a situation where Webtoons, and I'm not saying that they're trying to do anything nefarious, I'm just saying like the contract is going to be in their favor. So it's important for your lawyer, who can understand the legalese and understand that another lawyer wrote up this contract so that a normal person wouldn't be able to easily interpret it, then that way you can just be prepared to at least meet in the middle, or at least not get screwed over. So you're just doing your due diligence, and that's just business. Like if you're trying to do this as a career, you need to have a lawyer as a creative in general, someone to review your contracts on a basic level whenever you're doing anything with any type of corporation. I get waxed on forever about this, but I'm going to end my monologue there. Drug said, art really does. It did carry solo leveling. It's average story at most. The MC isn't even that well written or layered. Yeah, I think so. See, that's the thing about stories like Solo Leveling or like your typical shonen. A lot of them are just feel good stories. Like they have like really cool moments. They have really exciting, flashy scenes. I don't know what to call them. Action scenes. I don't know. But they have a lot of that where it's just like, is anything even happening? I don't find Midoriya from My Hero Academia to be like the most amazing, well-written MC. Like he explains himself a lot. He's very emotional. He has a lot of great moments, all of that stuff. But I find him to be a mediocre MC at best. Like, honestly, I don't care for any of the My Hero characters, but it's a fun story. Like, do I watch it? Yeah. Would I take time to read it? No. I'm sorry if I'm offending any My Hero fans. OMW said, for me, what works best is good, snappy storytelling. Yep. I agree with that. So I tell people if a scene isn't relevant for the plot, characters, or setting, then discard it. Yeah, nobody wants any of those fun scenes until they're invested in the story. And a perfect example of this is Alexeid. Alexeid does this so well, where you're like 300 chapters in, and then just there's like a cute moment between the characters, and you just eat it up because you're so invested in those characters. So if you want to have moments like that, you need to set up your story the way Alexi does. RU said 6 chapters done, building a website, ordering a plush doll to sell, or 20, building 3D models for BG and props in Blender. Is this all for your Webtoon contest entry? That's insane behavior. Kiki said, Samurai, the minimum is 40, but I think there's no max. Of course, file size limits when you upload those, so be careful. Yes. Pay attention to the upload. I wish they didn't do that for the contest. Juviola Grace is not a Tower of God fan, I see. Where did it go? The comment like literally disappeared. Oh no. Okay, here we go. Hi Apollo, wanted to ask if I could send you my story. I've been binging your videos and I'm curious to see what your critiques would be. Main one being genre. First thought epic fantasy, but not sure. Sure, send it to me. Not gonna lie, I used to be a manga not safe for work artist, so anatomy won't be a problem, but composition will be my enemy. Dude, just do some research. That sounds awesome though. I want to see your art. Like, not necessarily the not safe for work part, but I'm just curious like what your art style looks like now. Like, I'm very interested in this. Fish said, though trying to improve my original story for the contest, I've actually ended up making crazy drastic changes, but I think it will make for better storytelling. It's romance drama. Ooh, yes. I'm very excited to see what those changes are. Like, did you get help with that? Like, did somebody offer you a different perspective and it just kind of like sparked some thoughts in your brain? OMW said, wow, good going, everyone. I don't even have an outline yet. Kill me. Dude, you need an outline. Please, please. Fish said, I will point out to everyone here, Webtoon cares more about the story than the art, style, / quality. Of course, they want something that is pleasing to the eye, but don't be a perfectionist. I agree with that. Focusing on making the story good. Yes, I would say if you look at the top 10 from the CTA contest, the art skills are, they differ in between each artist. So some lean more on the, I don't know, like professional side, and some might lean more on like the newer, still learning side. So Webtoons, I think, was pretty fair in the last contest, and I think you can expect that behavior from the upcoming contest. Maybe I'll make a video on that. Harper said, I don't know if I do a original Webtoon, and I'd probably be Canvas still, but how do I plot out a Webtoon safe version of fantasy, Pirate X, mermaid romance? Outlines, a script are hard. I'm not sure what you're asking exactly, but I would just say, you know, be age appropriate if you're posting it on Webtoons. You said, to your point about cliffhangers, I've been told the cliffhangers are strong, but I don't have the same POV as everyone. I second guess every little detail. I think if people are telling you it's good, then I would definitely go with that. Like if a couple of people have told you the cliffhangers are working, then let them work. OMW said, I would love some videos / streams on romance webtoons. Yeah, let's do it. That's what I'm gonna do some next week. Casual, hello. I'm done writing all of my scripts and storyboards are half done. Watching your videos really helps me keep on track. Oh, good, good, good. I'm glad they're helping people keep on track. Yeah, you do got to give people what they want. I agree with that. Panelin said, what if you know you won't get a contract? If you feel like you're not going to get a contract, I wouldn't worry about it. Like, don't worry about getting a lawyer. Fishfish said, would it be smart if someone gets to the second stage to hurry and hire a lawyer immediately? I don't think you need to necessarily hire a lawyer. There are tons of lawyers that you can pay outright to perform a service for you, like reviewing a contract. And the only difference with this is I think like they might just charge you like for, I don't know what it's called. Like I'm blanking on the name of it. But when I worked at my past firm, we had people that would do like meetings with the lawyer, and it was just like a one-time meeting, and they would just like talk about whatever they had questions on or whatever they wanted advice on, and then she would offer her opinion, or she would like look over the information that they gave her, and then she would give it back to them, and that was it. Nothing else. Never saw them again. So I guess it depends. If you think you are going to have a lot of business for the lawyer, then you might ask them about being on retainer, but that's expensive and that's monthly, and that's generally like a long-term contract. I would just say look up to see if there's one that you want to work with and one that fits your vibe and your wallet. Ty said, one of the things I find really good to do is draw with other people who also draw. It helps me be motivated to lock in and keep working on my work and not procrastinate. Oh, that's a good idea. I think that would be really fun. Oh my good grief. You like, Lord, I can't remember his name. Lord, the grape-haired character. I can't stand him. He gets on my nerves so much. Pantheon, I can DM you on Discord. I had some feedback from people and I want more feedback. No, I was just curious, like, was there an idea that sparked like a complete reversion of it or something? Like, it's always interesting for me to hear, like, how people, like, go about restructuring their story. I find that super fascinating. I'm like, did you just, like, realize it as you were working on it that you know, there was a plot point that worked better to open, or did someone bring it to your attention? Like, a lot of that's really cool to me. Oh my god, guys. So we've been chatting for an hour. It's over my break time. I wish I could respond to all of the comments, but I'm going to have to jump off. I've got to get back to work. But thank you guys so much for chatting with me. It's been a lot of fun. My creator shout out. And of course, if you guys want one, you can always leave me a comment. You can DM me, whatever you decide, but pause the screen to check it out. The series is called Not My Bunny, and I've got the information linked in the description. A huge thank you and shout out to our patrons. If you'd like some extra content that I don't post on YouTube or Instagram or anywhere, then go ahead and head on over to my Patreon. I am doing lives on there as well, and you're getting some behind the scenes of me working on my webtoon. The next video is going to be this coming Monday, the 27th, and I'm going to be chatting all about the Queen's Game. All right, guys, thank you so much. It's been a bunch of fun. Have a good night.